It's time for a new habitat. Hello everyone and welcome back to Gaia Wild here in Fantastic Planets Zoo. We have got a very busy episode today because we are not starting one, not two, not three, but 4 new habitats all laid around this amazing circular central plaza for which you can see all the pathway work and all that stuff being done right now. If I talk to you a little bit about the layout, about what the idea is behind this central plaza before we delve on further into the episode. We're just doing some pathway work anyway, just to get the circular shape right. This literally took an hour. Circles, I don't know why, I just can't deal with circles. I like squares, triangles, that sort of stuff, but getting this circle right was very, very tricky indeed, only to then change it all later as we do. As you can see, it's a constant, put the circle in, it doesn't quite work, take it out again, repeat, and this was my life for about an hour. It was fantastic. Anyhow, if we talk about the idea behind the central plaza, behind the Gaia Plaza, so this is still part of the land, the entrance land called Gateway to Gaia is what I've named it. We've got various different land names in mind. If you do have any suggestions, leave it down in the comments below. I'd love to read it, and we might just name a land after your suggestion. So this is part of the Gateway to Gaia area. And Gaia, of course, meaning world, Earth. We've talked about this before, what the zoo stands for. So therefore, the Central Plaza is all around the Earth, really, and all of its 4 elements, mainly. So that will be the land, the sky, the water, and the fire, which, of course, are the 4 elements of the Earth. I've seen Avatar. I know what it means. We're getting really, really ahead of ourselves here with the plaza as well. If I tell you what we're doing real quick before I continue with what the plan is, we're making a fence here, custom fence again. We're using the base design of the entrance plaza, because it is still the same land. We can keep that theming going, and that nice dark wood that we were using, I'm in love with it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. We're just using this to perfect the location of the central fountain and the ponds, sea, gardens, everything like that. Based on Brookfield Zoo, which is the zoo I frequented a lot as a child back in Chicago. Fantastic zoo. I absolutely love it. Anyhow, like I was saying, with the idea behind this, is going to be 4 habitats flanking this central plaza, which are going to mimic the various different elements. So today we are working on the sky, and unfortunately we don't have very many birds or anything. I want to be all open, so we're using swans instead. And then what is going to come in the other 3 habitats, mimicking the earth, the fire, and the sea. We will have to see. Leave it down in the comments below as well what you'd like to see there. I have some base ideas in mind. Working on the base of the fountain here then, we are going for the circular shape on which all the various different, well, turrets, I guess it would be called, for the fountains, just moving it into place. And then you can see on the right hand side, we've added them all in. There's like 2 or 3 main ones that go up really tall in the center, and a couple that sprawl out from the side there as well. Just finishing the basic touches there of the sea, making a little bit of a wall around it, just so that it fits well and that we don't have this awfully looking gap really between the terrain and the sea. It goes down a little bit as well, just the limitation of the game there. Adding a few grass patches just to make sure everything is nice and straight, and later on I will add in a additional one as well, which is just going to keep those diagonal open sections nice and covered. There you can see the base design of the fountain there in the middle. It all comes together really nicely once there is some foliage and some plants and flowers in there. And this is what you're going to see from the main entrance. Looking all the way down, you're going to see this fountain, and basically from there we're going to have all the various different pathways come back to this central plaza for a very easy to navigate park if you want to go to the different lands and the different themed areas. So working on the gardens here then around it, you can see I've laid down some bamboo roofs. That's just to make sure that it gets a grid, and therefore I can easily rotate around. We'll get rid of the bamboo a little bit later. Adding in some flowers here. Getting these flower patches right was quite tricky. It added, like, I needed to do it quite a few times because I wanted to get the colors right. Eventually settled sort of on this. It's a very a variety really of pastel colours. We've got some lovely purple in there, some light pastel pink, some white in there, and it just fits on really well. Just trying to line that up here with the various different fences, in which we've also added some nice bright pink, bright purple, not pink, flowers there. There you can see it. Just finishing off some details there. Of course, as always, we like to focus on realism. So this is going to be the underwater construction of the fountain. You're not actually going to see this, but I decided to add it in anyway because of realism. You can sort of see the top finished version up there in the top of your screen right now. We'll look at that in the cinematics later. Alright, it's time to focus on the swans. Like I hinted at a little bit earlier, fortunately we don't really have very many birds. At least nothing that we can put here. Otherwise I would have put in a lovely aviary, but not really possible. So I thought the closest thing that we could do was swans for our sky theme, really. So of course swans need some water, so we have created a little river. Flows in underneath the path and then up into the main basin there in the center. We'll do some little detail work later, but that will be off camera there. Starting the work on the fencing here then for our swan pen. They don't need a lot. I believe it was only grade 1 and only 1.25 meters. They're swans, so it's not too bad. So we're going for this stone base, which we're going to sink down below a little bit. And then we've got these two bamboo sticks, rods, whatever they are. And we've recolored them to a slightly darker shade of brown. Works really well with the stone base, and it's going to work with the shelter as well. This is the style of the shelter we're going with. It's quite earthy. This whole pen turned out a little bit earthy, very natural, loads of wood, all that sort of stuff, rather than anything. There wasn't really much sky driven I could do, so we've just sort of gone with what the swan's like, really, and what the overall theme is of Gaia. This is the air and the sky, so in order to mimic that a little bit, I've decided to build bridges so that people can have a good view of the swans overhead. So we're going to have two bridges, one narrow one really wide one on the main path, and then at least it has some sort of sky feel to it, that you're up in the air, so to speak. Had to get a little creative with it, but it is what it is. Over in the sort of secluded section, it's off to the right-hand side, really, of the pen. There you can see in the background, sort of the layout with the main entrance, is the main shelter. I wanted to go for a nice detailed shelter as well, just like we did with the penguins. Penguins, of course, being underneath the whole gardens at the front. However, you know, not so much here. We can't really hide them away. So we're going to have this nice secluded pen in the background there. It's all made of wood, which will fit in with the theme here of the main pen later. We're going to put some foliage on the side as well, and actually it's masked quite well. Unless you're really looking for it and you know where it is, the guest can't really see it that much. And of course, with the focus being on realism, there needs to be a shelter. It needs to be sizable. I'm not going to go for something small. The zookeepers need to be able to work in there just like in real life. So therefore we've got this just to one side, and on the other side, of course, is going to be the foliage from the main pathway that leads towards the central plaza. Just creating the base. We've gone for a light concrete base on the shelter there, but then finishing off with some rocks, which just turned out really nicely. Adding in some gates there as well for the opening, so that if the shelter does need to be closed off for whatever reason, it can be. And of course they're only swans, so we don't need anything too dramatic there on the gates. Making the little swan pens there, so if they need to be in quarantine or overnight or anything like that, they've each got their own little cage there if need be. Very simple colours. Of course, this is the shelter. It's function over style, so we've gone for this light brown concrete. We're going to sink that rock in a little bit later. That's just sticking out from the outside, and then the zookeepers can, if they don't want to enter the pen, they can keep an eye on from here. We've got these lovely little glass walls that we're adding in, slightly curved, and then the doorway there in the middle if you want to enter the pen. Finishing that off, it actually turned out really nicely that we could add in these concrete plastered walls in. So this is the idea that I had in general. I didn't want it all glass, so this just makes it seem really nice and very purposely built for a observation area for the zookeepers. And I think like behind here, you know, they'd have their desks, they have their workstation, anything that they don't need in the habitat but still would be functional for our swans. Working on the staff entrance there. This is the backside really of the building. We're adding in I think this is the same door I used in the penguin pen. It's just a functional staff door that you would see at zoos, and just making sure that the wooden beams go along there quite nicely as well, so then it's all fit in perfectly. Working on then the enrichments, of course, we've added in the standard enrichments that the swans need based off of the Zoopedia file, which is fantastic. So adding them in and trying to cover them all up with various different rocks and foliages, just to make sure that they don't stand out too much and it all seems very natural from the guest perspective. And of course we had to add in my favorite tree that we also added in at the start of Gaia Wild there, and just adding in some foliage all around. Like I said, it's going to turn into a little bit of a forest really, which is very, very earthy. Which, yeah, it works out very well. It looks nice at the end. It's sort of the style that we went for. Like I said, this is the sky. It's not too much we can do at the moment with flying animals or birds or anything like that. So we just had to make it work. Starting on the bridges then, that's the main sort of up in the air element, like I mentioned earlier. Just getting the motif right, really. Going for a base standard game roof here rather than making a custom one. Slightly because I was running short on time. And we're just adding in some thatch there at the top. Recolored all of it, make it nice and dark. Make it fit, and just a little trim on the top here. Then trying to work out, I wanted to do these essentially mini arches, which we worked out with some Arctic wood here. That is at a slight angle and slightly curved, which just makes a shape change really, rather than keeping it all very, very square. It just adds in a little curved element, works out really well with the bridges in the end. We're going to add in these meandering paths. So the idea is that the habitats are around the central plaza. Inside the center of the central plaza, something I haven't said yet, is going to be various different areas like the cafe. There's going to be a nice picnic area in there as well. It's going to be all sorts in the central hub of it. So then if you need, to have a picnic, every guest will know Central Plaza is where I need to be. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I went to zoos as a child, my mum would always have packed sandwiches because the zoo food was way too overpriced, and therefore we'd always have our own stuff with us. And these picnic areas were fantastic. I do believe Brickfield Zoo actually has quite a few of them. Of course, that's where I went as a child a lot, like I mentioned earlier in the video. I do believe they have quite a few of those facilities, which was always really, really nice. Great memories of the zoo there. As you can see, it's starting to come together. It works out really well. In the end, with the whole view, and the bridges actually are a really nice touch because it's reasonably dense foliage, so then at least you've got a nice aerial view of it. This is the bridge for the main path, so as you can see there's an inner circle and then an outer circle and then an even further outer circle around everything, around all these habitats and around the central plaza to make it all fit. So this is the second circle bridge, I do believe. It's what I named it eventually. Making an extra little shelter, of course. Gaia Wild was set in Europe, Western Europe, so that means it does rain. So these bridges are really nice, but we're going to have this nice covered area as well to view it from low down, really. Loads of viewing points for this habitat, which works out really well. Just building that shelter right here, and we are going to go for a fantastic curved roof here. Do love a curved roof. So we're just getting the sizing right here. We're using the base of these two initially. That was just to get the grid right, to make sure that I liked the angle. And then you can see we are adding in some, I think I'm using roof trims here, and then they are going to be at a slight curve. And because I wanted the curve to be the same, we're going to just copy them and then rotate them into position, pull them up a little bit, and it's just a slight curve. We're actually going to rotate it down. This was a lot steeper before. I've already twisted it a little bit. Looks really nice. Just to keep that different angle motif going, we're going to go for these poles that are going to be rotated into place there as well to hold the whole structure together, and that turns out really nice indeed. In that whole area we're going to add in some benches, lovely places for people to sit as well. Just some cross beams there, just for a bit of realism and to make it a whole little thing. There you go. There you can see the base design. I'm going to add in a few little tweaks later. We're going to remove some of the poles from some of the central sections just to open it up a little bit. So So you can see it's connected there to the rockwork on the left. We're going to get rid of that pole there in the middle. So then it's essentially almost like a little mini cave. And then we've got this nice little shelter for our guests, just in case it rains. Finishing up some of the garden work in and around the paths here. These paths are essentially made for meandering upon. I like the idea of people just walking through the elements here, walking through the various different foliages. That is local. But that is the main habitat. Let's have a look at the cinematics then. Here we go. There are our beautiful swans. We've got 4 of them at the moment, 2 males, 2 females, and we can see how it all came together. These bridges turned out so well. I love it. Little planks there at the bottom for the guests to walk over the water. There is our viewing gallery there. We can see one of the swans already approaching that viewing gallery, saying hello to all of our guests. And this is sort of the secluded spring on the far side of the habitat. Well, that is all for this week. We have one more look at the Central Plaza. Do comment down below what you thought of it and any suggestions. Please subscribe for more, like and comment. I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching and goodbye.